So just like a flight that has delay after delay, we now have a new release date of October of 2027. And I think besides the movie being delayed itself and also a new name likely being associated with the film here, I think this delay does show a lot of potential changes for Matt Reeves's universe. Whether that was due to the movie being delayed in the first place or a few other outside factors that maybe have even influenced the direction of this new Batman universe. But starting with, I think, the overall obvious point of what maybe has probably held up the script for quite some time is that we know Matt Reeves, in addition to really trying to take his time with something, I do think that the villain choice for the second movie was really going to be one of the things that makes or breaks the film. I do think there are a lot of interesting options for where they could go, and I could see a number of those being successful, but I think ultimately due to the execution, and a lot of that would be in the character development of the villain in the script, I really think that's probably what the focus is. I also do think someone like Robin is probably a heavy favorite, whether it really be a focus of the sequel or even potentially a trilogy. So I think decisions like that are really why Matt Reeves wanted to make the most out of his brainstorming. But I think outside of Matt Reeves, you also have to look to the state of the rest of Warner Brothers right now, particularly the Superman trailer that's just been dropped. So now you have a lot of focus being pivoted towards James Gunn's new DCU. And originally, before any of this happened, we knew that James Gunn wanted to have his own Batman, which would be separate from Robert Pattinson, and that he even wanted a film of his own with Batman the Brave and the Bold. And I think now, with a lot of rumors coming after the success of the Superman trailer, that you're potentially going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman just merge with this new DCU that we're getting under James Gunn. I think that is definitely looking to be a heavy possibility, and that could also explain why this sequel is getting delayed, because if James Gunn maybe had somewhat of an idea in terms of what his sequel would look like, now if they just decided to completely merge with this new path forward, it maybe is going to be a little bit trickier or just take a lot more time to develop this world to align with Gunn's. And I don't necessarily think that would be an issue for Robert Pattinson's Batman or this new Batman universe that we've gotten, because I think you could still have a grounded version of Batman and even grounded versions of villains that Batman comes into contrast with, and this version of Gotham be exactly what we know of it already. But then once you have Robert Pattinson join the Justice League, you get a lot more of the supernatural and fantastical elements there. And I think besides the new Superman and the new DCU, I think the Penguin might have also had a pretty significant shift on what the Batman Part 2 will look like, because I think the Penguin was something that was really a last-minute decision. And after looking at the show's performance really being taken well by fans and really being notably successful, I think maybe that is causing a lot of pivot in terms of including those characters and including that story in the Batman Part 2. And then besides that, you also have the news of a new Clayface movie being announced for this new DCU. It's actually going to be the third movie in the new James Gunn DCU. And this is supposed to come out in 2026. Previously, when this was announced, it was going to be a month before the Batman Part 2, and we originally knew that this wasn't going to be connected, since we do, of course, have the previous knowledge that Matt Reeves and James Gunn's universes are separate. And they really didn't make too much of an issue with those movies being so close together. But I think even though the explanation given for the Batman 2 delay is that the script isn't finished, I think that definitely could be something that is a factor just in terms of those movies overshadowing each other. But regardless of why exactly the movie got delayed, I do think you are going to have to do a few different things just to keep the Batman relevant, since we are having pretty much a 5-year gap in between the first movies. I think you do have to do a second season of The Penguin. Maybe that could be in 2025 or 2026, just to keep this universe fresh on people's minds. And I think given the success of the first season, even though in terms of the plot it would be a little bit trickier, I do think you have to do another 8 episodes of that, and that really be a tie-in to the sequel. And this could definitely seem a little bit redundant, but I think now you do have the opportunity to really hone in on who the next villain is going to be. And maybe that's simply just the Penguin, or maybe that's Oz joining the Court of Owls, and the Court of Owls are really the overarching antagonist for the second movie. Or maybe we get Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, or Hush in the Penguin Part 2, or even someone like Black Mask, who is a new rival for the Penguin, and then all of that storyline ties into the sequel here. And I think in addition to that, this time you really do have to include Robert Pattinson in this, whether that's Bruce Wayne, whether that's Batman, whether that's some of both. I don't think you can just do a quick cameo. I do think you have to have a presence, and I also think there's a ton of other possibilities you could do in terms of bringing Selena Kyle or Catwoman into this, and that could tie into Sophia. And then we have the ongoing rivalry with Sophia and the Penguin that could continue in season 2. And I think once you do get to the point of the second movie, I do think you now have to do some sort of a time jump by the time the second movie comes out, just to really accommodate for the aging of the cast, and also just to fit the viewer's perception of the long time in between those 2 movies. So I think a 5-year time jump would be something to make it a little bit more appropriate, and I think that could be also really interesting for the plot as well. And I think the Penguin season 2 could maybe include a time jump, or bridge the gap between a potential time jump in those first 2 movies. And I think it is also possible that they are going to have just another Batman in James Gunn's universe, and they're going to continue to go with that idea. So I really think it would be a good idea just to have something still before the new movie would come out in October of 2027. Another possibility that wouldn't really require as much of a commitment would be some sort of animated prequel to this universe, and that could just be seeing Robert Pattinson's version of Batman in his first year, or maybe it's even just an origin story of him becoming Batman, almost like Batman Begins, but stuck in this universe. And you could have a lot of these same cast members just do voiceovers for this. So that's what I really think will be the potential impacts that this delay will have on this new universe as a whole. But feel free to let me know if you guys have any ideas or predictions for what this will look like, and I'll see you later.